appearance was perhaps the most astonishing of all. On that first Easter afternoon, as the sky darkened toward dusk, Jesus appeared to two men who were traveling from Jerusalem to Emmaus, a 2-hour journey, about 7 miles altogether. These two men were disciples of Jesus, and they had heard the witness of the women, but they held on to their doubt and their sadness. Why the journey to Emmaus? We don't really know for sure, but I can imagine they took the trip to get away from it all, to escape Jerusalem's hopelessness, to clear their minds, to return to their homes, to think about a new direction for their lives now that their Messiah was no longer in play. That's the human angle. But evidently, God had a different purpose in mind, for on the way, they would be intercepted by a mysterious stranger, and because of this encounter, they would never be the same. Interestingly enough, the most detailed record of the post-resurrection appearances of Jesus doesn't involve Mary, Peter, or any of the known disciples. It involves two unknowns. Two men specifically not mentioned up to this point in Scripture. Cleopas actually makes his debut in Luke chapter 24, but the other traveler, we never do know who he is. He's totally unidentified. And I have to say, that's like Jesus to do that. Because you see, Jesus is not partial to the well-known. He does not gravitate toward the famous. He comes to the meekest and the weakest of us to bring his joy and gladness into our lives. Luke 24:13 to 35 may be one of the most dramatic presentations in the whole New Testament. In essence, it's a 3-act play. Act 1 takes place on the road between Jerusalem and Emmaus, with the stage occupied by only 2 players, Cleopas and his friend. Act 2, also on the road, begins when a mysterious stranger joins them. Act 3 takes place in a humble home in Emmaus as the 3 prepare to share a meal. Act 1 you could call discouragement. Luke says it this way in chapter 24 of his gospel, verses 13 and 14. Now behold, 2 of them were traveling that same day to a village called Emmaus, which was 7 miles from Jerusalem, and they talked together of all these things which had happened. Their discouragement seems to have run through 3 different levels. First, the disciples had heard the testimony of Mary Magdalene and the other women, but they did not believe that Jesus is alive, so they were in doubt. Disappointment naturally followed. In verse 21, we read, "But we were hoping that it was he who was going to redeem Israel. Indeed, beside all of this, today is the 3rd day since these things happened." All of their dreams for the future had been crucified with Jesus. They had probably heard Jesus say, "I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no man comes to the Father except through me." They believed he was the Messiah, the fulfillment of all the Old Testament prophecies. Yet now this one in whom they had invested all their hopes had been taken to a cross and crucified. And for all they knew, he was still dead, despite the rumors, despite the stories. Their discouragement didn't stop with doubt and disappointment, however. It spiraled down until it reached the point of despair. All hope had been abandoned. 3 days had passed since the crucifixion. There is no credible news upon which to pin any new hope. So as they walked back toward Emmaus, they were overwhelmed with sadness and without hope. You see, Cleopas and his friend had a problem.